you very much, Thank you very much, Rabbi Sai. I just wanted to thank each one of you for coming this extraordinary morning here in Yerushalayim Hakodesh. I did ask a psak before I began from a Rav here in Harnof. If the siren goes off, then I do not have to leave because even though this is not a properly protected room, it's slightly protected. I have the I have a building, excuse me, I have the mountain behind me, and the window is sufficiently far away from where I'm teaching over here. And in his words, he said, even though this is not obviously a psak for everyone, but he said that you can be samech, that the Torah that you teach will be your protection over here. So having said that, let us begin. As you all know, this is going to be a share that is a little unusual. It's going to be a halacha-based share, but the essence at the end is going to be anchoring everything into what's going on with the matzah that's happening. Just once again, I want to thank Rav Moshe Shapira for always being there for me and for being loyally and putting on the share, even though I know that you're probably in transit as we speak. We are now at a interesting junction in a four-step process called the Dalet Parshiyos. The Dalet Parshiyos, as you all know, has four elements to it. The first one is called Shekalim, the second one is called Zachor, the third is called Parah, and the fourth element is called Hachodesh. What I want to do with you is go a little bit deeper into understanding what these 4 weeks are all about. What was the takana of Chazal? And I want to just start off by mentioning that the sugya of Dalet Parshiyos appears in two separate places in Maseches Megillah. The first one is actually a Mishnah in the first parak. The Mishnah is the fourth Mishnah, says, and I quote, Ein bein Adar Harishon la'Adar Sheni elikriyas Hamegillah v'matanis levyanim. And we're going to see in a moment what is the big machlokes tanaim over there about what is the halachic positioning of the Dalet Parshiyos when you have a month that has been added. You start off, you do the Dalet Parshiyos in Adar Rishon, and then Adar Sheni kicks in, and the question is, what exactly is the halachic status? So that is the first sugya, which is in the first parak. And the second sugya is in the last parak at the very end of the Masechta. And there you have something fascinating. There you have, literally, it goes on for over a blot discussing what is the positioning of the Dalet Parshiyos when it falls in various different times of the week. So the lashon of the Mishnah over there is, and I quote, Rosh Chodesh Adar shechol liyos b'Shabbos Keren Parsha Shekalim Chol liyos b'teich Shabbos, which means it's a machlokes whether it means Friday or it means Sunday to Thursday. Makdinim l'sha'avar. You go back and you read it the Shabbos beforehand. That's what happened this year. So you actually had Parsha Shekalim being read in Chodesh Shvat. So that is the whole discussion over there, going back and forth about what exactly is the positioning and how to work it out. And there's this famous long Rashi at the end of the Masechta that goes on for half a page where he goes through all the cheshbonos, and it's all calendar related discussions. So the Mishnah goes on and says, "Mafsikin l'Shabbos acheres b'Shabbos." Excuse me, I can't read this. Excuse me. Mafsikin l'Shabbos acheres. You have a hafsaka if Shabbos Shekalim is in Shvat. There's a gap, and then you have to have Parsha Zachor, which has to be next to Purim. That is called a gap week, right? Hafsaka is a gap week. We're going to go back to that in a moment. Then the Mishnah says, "B'shlishis par aduma b'revius hachodesh hazeh lachem b'chamishish chayzrim la." I need to put on my glasses. Who am I trying to kid? Chayzrim la kisidron. Okay, everything goes back to normal once again. Yeah, that's much better. I still try and believe that I can read my notes over here. I can read it without my reading glasses. It's not working, but let's just deal with it. Bottom line is, you got these two Mishnayos, one in the first parak, one in the fourth parak. The Gemara has technical discussions about when you say it, but nowhere in the Gemara does it say why you say it. It's not discussed at all. Interestingly, the Rishonim do not talk about it either. It's left for the Achronim to do the job. And what I want to do with you now is read to you the Mishnah Berurah. The Mishnah Berurah is based, it's slightly his own words, it's based on the Levush. And this is a siman in Shulchan Aruch, Taf Reish Pei Hey, Seder Arba Parshiyos, where you have Zayin Seifim that goes through the halachas of Arba Parshiyos. Please keep note, because we're going to see that the Rambam, as always, is going to be different. The Rambam, the Shulchan Aruch places Arba Parshiyos just before Hilchos Purim, which is the place, obviously, where it logically belongs. Let me read to you the Mishnah Berurah, the Chafetz Chaim. He says the following words. It's based on the Levush. Avar Bekitza Inyan Arba Parshiyos. The Mishnah Berurah says, I want to give you a little introduction to what the Arba Parshiyos is all about. V'hu Chazal Tiknu. Over here, Shar Tzion, the Gemara and the Paiskim, Likreis Arba Parshiyos B'Shana, Mirish Chodesh Adar Ad Rish Chodesh Nisan. So you notice that we're ignoring the fact that it can, technically speaking, also fall in Shvat. It is something that belongs to the month of Adar. L'zichrain arba devarim, to remember four separate things. V'heim elu. Harishayna hi parsha shkalim. L'zichrain mitzvahs machnis hashekel. So this is what the Gemara says, that shkalim is to remind ourselves of the mitzvah of machnis hashekel. She's bar b'samach shayim uchiyavim litin l'lishka l'karbon tamid b'kol shana. In the times of the Beis Hamikdash, and as Hashem Yisbarach, the way things are going, hopefully we're going to have this mitzvah very, very soon, maybe even next week, God willing, as Hashem Yisbarach, that we used to contribute a half shekel to the Lishka, to the Beis Hamikdash, and therefore we remind ourselves of this mitzvah every single year, because he doesn't say this over here, but maybe he does later on, that we need to donate the shkalim early enough. That's why it comes first, early enough, so that the collections can be made in time for the new karbanos and everything being renewed on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. V'hashniya, the second Shabbos, he Parshas Zachor, Liskar Maisa Amalek, v'kaim oisa b'Shabbos lifnei Purim, l'samcha l'maisa Haman shemizera Amalek, v'lahakdim schira u'mechias Amalek l'asiyasai, k'dichsiv v'hayamim ha'ela niskarim v'nasim. This is actually a pasuk in the Megillah that says not only should you do the mitzvah of Purim, but you should remember the mitzvah of Purim. And the mitzvah of Purim has two parts to it. One is Kriyas HaMegillah, and the other is reading the Parsha of Amalek just beforehand. So that is the second Shabbos. For Rav Nachman Aaron from Ottawa, just to tell you what we're doing over here, we're going through the Mishnah Berurah, quoting the Levush, explaining the four Parshiyos. So again, Shkalim is for the mitzvah of Shkalim, as a zichrain for a mitzvah that happened in the Beis Hamikdash, the collection of the Shkalim. Zachar is the mitzvah of, you have to have zechira before you do asiyah. Shlishis hu Parshas Parah Aduma, v'hu b'Shabbos shekein Parshas Hachodesh, shekein haya sreifasa b'midbar samach leNisan. So historically, they burnt the parah. This is called the parah of Moshe Rabbeinu, was samach leNisan. Straight after the Kamas HaMishkan, which was at the very beginning of Nisan, we were able to cleanse ourselves with the Efer of Moshe Rabbeinu's Chatas. Now I just want to show you the words of the Levush. L'hispalel lefanav Yisbarach, shegam aleinu yizrek Mayim Taherim B'Mehera, to pray to the Eibishter that we should also be zocha to have this sprinkled on us B'Mehera V'Yameinu. I do not know. This is a question I would like to have answered. Why we don't say the Mishnah Berurah's Tefillah In other words, I don't know why before Parshas Parah we don't say this one line and say Yiratzim B'Fenecha, right? She Yizrak Aleinu Mayim Tahir B'Meher V'Yameinu Amen. But this is what the Mishnah Berurah says. Finally, Haravias is Parshas Hachodesh B'Shabbat Chasamach L'Chodesh Nisan, just before Chodesh Nisan, Kidei L'Kadesh Chodesh Nisan. So once again, he brings down the pasuk Tichsiv B'Torah Chodesh Hazeh Lechem Reish Chodashim Aval Ein Ze Ikar HaKiddush. He immediately reminds us, don't think that you have suddenly become based in. Ki Ikar HaKiddush Be'ez Riyas Halavana Shemekachim Moshe based in. Based does it by looking at the moon. Ve'ein HaKriya Zeis Element Rabban. This is a Rabbanon thing to remind us of this extraordinary mitzvah, the Chodesh Hazeh Lechem. Now, let me summarize what I want to get out of this. Excuse me. The Mishnah Berurah, which is the Levush, is very satisfied to tell us 4 separate ideas. Each Shabbos is completely and totally separate. There's no mahalach between the 4. If you notice, okay, this is the Levush, this is the Parsha Pshat. Each one of them comes with their own dinim. Each one of them comes with their own dinim plus, meaning Zachor has its own unique set of halachos. As you all know, Shitas that say it's Doraisa, women go to hear Parshas Zachor, Parshas Parah. I don't know what happens in your shul, but in my shul, the Gabbai always reminds us that there are Shitas that also say that Parah is Doraisa, and so on and so forth. Each one of them comes with its various minhagim and halachas, but they're 4 disparate, means separate, different ideas that all belong to this month. Now, let's continue. The problem is I have with this. Okay, it's a very obvious problem. Is that there's the Mishnah over here that we mentioned beforehand in the first parak brings down a machlekes tanaim. I warned you we were going to quote this machlekes tanaim. Im karu es haparshiyos ba'adar rishon the nisabra hashana ha'im tzarich lachsa v'lekreisam ba'adar sheni. So the question is, what happens if you suddenly have an ibur? The first month is repeated. You already did the 4 parshiyos. So you have a machlekes tanaim. Tanakama says you did it already. Don't worry. And Rishon Gamliel says no, it's ma'akev. You have to do what's called to ultimately we say to be seimech geula legula. You have to have Adar Sheni next to Nisan. You have to do the whole thing over again. La halacha, it's a machlekes in the paskim, and believe it or not, there's a girsa in the Beis Yosef. Of course, this doesn't happen today with our calendars, but it's a purely technical, theoretical thing in Siman Tafrei Peshches, that if you did it in the first month, let's say you did it B'Tos, you didn't realize it was a double month, so you don't have to do it again in your shul, according to one girsa in the Beis Yosef. That's the halacha. Now, for me, this is a pella. Why? Because it comes out that you're reading Parshas Parah and you're reading Parshas Hachodesh more than a month before Nisan has come in. It's like, it's like totally you're reading in Shva for all intents and purposes. It's still a period of the calendar where if you whisper into your wife's ear the word Pesach, she will have an anxiety attack and say, why are you saying this? What do you want from me? This is like, it doesn't make, it's neged ha'igayon that you would be reading the Parshas HaChodesh, which the whole thing is to remind ourselves of what Beis Din used to do when you're literally over a month before the actual thing itself. So another thing that I want to point out to you, the poskim discuss what happens if, for technical reasons, in shul you did not read what you were supposed to read. So let's say, for example, you didn't read Parshas Shekalim Shabbos morning when you're supposed to read Parshas Shekalim, and you forgot to do it by Mincha as well. So can you do it the next week? Technically speaking, can you be mashlim Parshas Shekalim in another week, whatever it is? Let's say the next week is an empty week, so that would be perfect. Let's say it's not an empty week. Let's say it's Parshas Zachor. So you read Shekalim because you forgot to say it last week, and then you read Parshas Zachor. I've had similar situations when I travel. I go to America and the parshas are different. I come back, I've missed the parsha. Ah, exactly. So, so Rav David Shulman correctly says, this is this is going to be machlukas amongst the poskim. He brings down the Binyan Shlomo and Reb David Shulman both say. He says, well, since the whole thing is for the Shkalim, and the Shkalim is to remind you that in ancient times they used to make a collection. What does it make a difference if you don't do it in the right Shabbos? You have Tashlumim till the end of the month, which is the time when the Shkalim was historically collected. Um, you have the quote, the whole month mashviu al shkalim. In ancient times, the whole month, the Gizbarim used to send round their people to go and make this massive collection. It was this huge, big fundraiser throughout Eretz Yisrael. Everyone had to give their half shekel, give the whole month. So you miss it. The Bin Shlomo, which is an early Achron, says it's fine. The problem is that Rabbi Akiva Eiga quoting the Ginas Vradim. I don't know who the Ginas Vradim was, but Rav Asher Weiss tells us he was a Kadmon. He says, you missed it, it's gone. You only have that Shabbos. There's something unique about that Shabbos, and after that, it's not Shabbos Shkalim anymore. So it sounds to be that there is something else going on in the 4 weeks, besides what we've been talking about, is that each week has its own unique special message. So I want to say this is like not rocket science to come out and say this, that there's 2 dinim in Dalit Parshiyos, and the Mishnah Berurah sticks with the Levush and sticks with one of them and doesn't bother to mention the other one. The Levush very clearly gives 4 separate ideas for 4 separate different weeks, and he holds that every single one of them has its own unique dinim. So, as we mentioned, Shabbos Parshas Zachor is Doraisa, Parshas Parah, some people say it's Doraisa, the Medaike also from Parshas Chukas, the Binyan Shlomo, and our good friend Reb David Shulman, we say that there's certainly Tashlomim. Why not? Each one, you look at it for its own reason. Why not be Mashlim Shkalim at another time? It is possible to envision that if you miss Parshas Parah tomorrow, so the next week you have Parshas Hachodesh. So we said we forgot Parah. Let's read Parah first, and then let's read Parshas Hachodesh. However, as you probably guessed where I'm going with this share, that this is in the Holy Farm, for sure they talk about this, but I'm going to show you the nafkimin is la halacha as well, is that people talk about the 4 weeks are a journey of 4 separate steps, and each step has its unique makom, and this fits in with the Rabbi Akiva Eiga that we just quoted, quoting the Ginas Vradim. There's no messing around. If you miss the Shabbos of Shabbos Shkalim, even if it's pushed back to Shva, you don't go back. It belongs to that moment for specific reasons, as we're about to show. Everything has its own Shabbos, and here is the big idea that I want to share with you. What these 4 Shabbosim have in common is that they are all dinim in Hilchos Chodesh Adar. They are the month of Adar ideas, meaning that certain things belong to the month. Next month is going to be Nisan. Nisan has got a unique, right? Yachol Mirosh Chodesh has got its unique halachas. Throughout the whole month, we don't say Tachnun. Throughout the whole month, we have the Geula of Pesach spreads from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. Adar has unique halachas, and one of the halachas of Adar is the Dalit Parshiyos. It is unique to Mishenichnas Adar Marvin Besimcha that you begin a journey of 4 legs, of 4 steps, of 4 rungs up this ladder. Shkalim, Zachor, Parah, Chodesh has to be in that order. There is no messing around over here. So first of all, just by the way, it also explains very, very nicely that if you hold that the first Adar is the Adar, if you hold the first Adar is the Adar, so then it makes sense that you got to do it during those 4 weeks. Oh, it works out that Chodesh is a month away from this son. No, if you hold that the Ikar Adar is the first Adar, we're not going to go into it why it should be that way. but a little bit you all understand that Adar Sheni is not really a normal month. Actually, for those of you that have the Hasidic Siddurim, which has the Bnei Yissaschar, which, by the way, my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Shapira, says whoever placed it into the Siddur was irresponsible. He does not approve of Kabbalistic ideas being placed into the Siddur. He made this comment. But today you have, I'm sure, a lot of the Siddurim that I have over here have what kavana to have for each one of the 12 months, meaning what combination of Yud Kei Vav Kei and Aleph and Ekia and Aleph Hey Yud Hey, what combinations of those letters belong to each month. If you go to Rav Dov Cook's shul in Tveria, you'll see 12 windows, and there each one has a different combination of the letters. Welcome, Rav Michal Ravinsky, who is in an airport as we speak. I have that inside information. But you have those 12 different months. So what do you do for Adar Sheni? The answer is you combine all 12. So clearly, the 13th month is like the letter Aleph in Echad is something that combines the other 12. There's a lot of Torah about Adar Sheni, and therefore the Tanakama in the Gemara in the first parak says the Four Parshiyos belong to the month of Adar. Real Adar is the first Adar. It doesn't work with the Lavush that they have to be. Oh, Michal is actually on an airplane. It doesn't work with the Lavush. Doesn't make any difference. It has to be in the first month. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, was it Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel is the Bar Plukta? He says that no, it belongs to the second month because you always have to be Seimech, Geula, the Geula of Purim and the Geula of Pesach always have to go together. Maybe we'll get back to that in a few moments' time.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so let me just summarize.
Are you sure?
Okay, let me just summarize what's happened over there. Rabbi Michal, we all hear you. Can you mute yourself? Rabbi Michal, can you mute yourself? Okay, so I just want to expand on this second opinion of what it means that all the parashiyos come together. The source that I know of Daled parashiyos belonging to the month of Adar specifically, and that they're mahalach. The source of this all is the Shalah. Honestly, I don't know if it's in the Arizal because I don't have that particular skill set of knowing the Kabbalistic sources, but the Shalah writes about it, and he brings a nafkimina lahalacha. And this is very, very interesting because since we're learning halacha now, the real Agadata is going to come in a few minutes. We're still learning halacha over here. There is a famous debate. When I say famous, it's Reb Asher Weissworthy. It's one of those things that people talk about. What is the status of a regular Kriyas HaTorah? What exactly is Kriyas HaTorah? Is Kriyas HaTorah a din in the tzibor, meaning you should belong to a shul, and your shul should have Kriyas HaTorah? By the way, in Israel, it's lost a little bit. It's one of the beauties of living in Chutz La'aretz, is in Chutz La'aretz, everyone understands when you move to community, you're moving to a shul. And your shul is kaver all kinds of different things. When your shul is Makabel Shabbos, you have to be Makabel Shabbos. Person is supposed to have a shul, Me'ikar Hadin, it's brought down La Halacha, and it's one of the things that is lost a little bit when you make Aliyah, and there's 20 shuls to prove from, and people like Menachem Nissel, at any given moment, I actually give money to 4 different shuls because I daven in 4 different shuls so regularly. Bottom line is, I'm a member of 4 different shuls. Bottom line is, what is Kriyas HaTorah? Is it in the Tzibor, or is it in the Yachid? The Shulchan Aruch in Kuf Men Vav, Halacha Beis, brings down that the pashtus of the halacha is a din in the tzibor, and the nafkamina is that, for example, if you're a Talmid Chacham, so known as Choshe B'Ksherim, and you are in a shul where there are 10 people who are listening to the Kriyas HaTorah, so the tzibor has a Kriyas HaTorah, you don't have to listen. You can carry on learning your sugya. I don't think this would, the Mishnah Berurah brings down over there. You got to be very careful to do this because people will raise their eyebrows. But Me'ikar Adin, you don't have to go crazy to run after Kriyas HaTorah if you miss it. As long as your shul had a Kriyas HaTorah, your teniki speak Yetze, This is not something you want to tell to the yeshiva bachrim. But that is what's actually brought down la halacha according to most poskim. We obviously are machmir and are moisa nefesh to hear Kriyas Torah. Last week, I want to thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for his sweet kindness. That unlike a year ago in the Iran war, where I was stuck in Poland, so I had to fly to all the way to Miami just to get my laundry done, and I had to wait 2 weeks until I could get back home. This time, I got in Erev Shabbos. Baruch Hashem, I just made it, and I'm totally grateful. But when I got home, when I got off the plane, I missed Mincha, so I went up to the shul in the arrivals in Ben Gurion, and there I also caught. It was Thursday. It was just before Shkia, and there were 10 of us, and we did Kriyas HaTorah for that Thursday. So that obviously is a chumrah to try and get into the Kriyas HaTorah as well. It's a chumrah that I think everyone that's listening to me is makpidin if we can do so. Bottom line is, Daled Parshiyos L'Kula Alma is different. Daled Parshiyos says the Shla. L'Kula Alma is a din in the Yachid. Everyone holds that Daled Parshiyos is similar to what? Similar to Mitzvah's Megillah. No one's going to say that Megillah is a din in the Tzibur. No, women have to go, children have to go. Every single Yid has to hear the Megillah. Every single Yid has to go and hear the Daled Parshiyos. If you are a male and you are chayav in Kriyas HaTorah, you've got to go and hear the Daled Parshiyos. So let me summarize what just happened over here. I'm going to call it a machlokes between the Shla and the Levush. It's not exactly that way, as I'm sure it has different nuances and how you can read things, but it just simplifies everything. The Levush, which the Mishnah Berurah is the quotes at the very beginning of Tafresh Pehei. Mishnah Berurah says, like the Levush, there's 4 weeks. The 4 weeks are not connected. The 4 weeks, each one of them has its own unique din, its own unique customs that come with it, and it's unique and special on its own way, and it's not a mahalach. And we saw nafkaminas la halacha between them. For example, if you miss one, you can catch up another time. All these different things are possible differences over there. Excuse me. But then, 1 second, please. I missed out something very, very important. I apologize. 1 second. I just looking at my notes. I missed out something very, very important. I wanted to show you the machlokes about what is the source of Kriyas HaTorah, and we'll get back to Dalet. I'm sorry about this. Let me just quickly go over this. It's very, very important. You probably have heard this before, but if not, it's very, very important information, because every single person that's listening to me is a mechanech. What would happen if a kid asks you, Kriyas HaTorah, what is the source of Kriyas HaTorah? So people don't know that it's a machlokes. What is the source of the mitzvah of Kriyas HaTorah? And there's actually nafkaminas la halacha. You can go to your shul, next to this Kriyas HaTorah, ask the person next to you, why do we do Kriyas HaTorah? They won't know. It's all mefurish. The first shita is Mesechus Seifrim. It's the Yerushalmi. It also seems to be a little bit Murumas of the Gemara at the end of Megillah. I'm quoting the Mesechus Seifrim, Perak Yud, Mishnah Aleph. Moshe Hisra Yisrael, she Kayim B'Torah B'Shabbasos, or B'Yamin Tevim, or B'Rosh Chadashim, or B'Chola Shalmayit. Shenema, famous pasuk in the Torah, V'Yadaber Moshe Smoed Hashem L'Bnei Yisrael. So it's actually how Masechta ends, and this is the idea that Moshe Rabbeinu is masakin, that as you're going through the journey of time, you must read the relevant parsha to where you are going through the journey of time. From here, the Hasidic Rebbes famously say that it's not by chance that this Shabbos is Parshas Kisisa. Every Yid darshans the parsha connecting to where you are holding in the calendar. So we do this right, left, and center. We just came out with Parshas Bo, Beshalach, and Yisro. So in all the big Rebbes, in Parshas Bo, they talk about Yetzias Mitzrayim, and they recreate Pesach. In Parshas Beshalach, Shvi Shel Pesach. Parshas Yisro is Matan Torah, and we do this constantly. We always talk about how the parsha is related to the moment where you are in the year. This is the Makar, this Mesechus Seifrim, this Yerushalmi, that Moshe Rabbeinu is Masakin Kriyas HaTorah, that it should be relevant to the time of the year as you're going through it. But there is another source, and the other source is a Gemara in Baba Kama Daf Pei Beis, Daf Kaf Beis Amud Aleph, on the famous pasuk Vayelchu Shloishes Yamim B'Midbar V'Lo Yimotzu Mayim. So this is in Parshas B'Shalach. Klal Yisrael went 3 days without water, and the Gemara brings down a proof that Mayim is a reference to Torah. Kevin Shaholchu Shloishes Yamim B'Lo Torah Nilu. They got weak. Amdu Nevi'im Shbeneim. I don't really understand how this happened in the Midbar, but the Nevi'im said, V'tiknu lehem sheyakeirim kol gimel yamim, every 3 days. So you have Shabbos, you have Monday, you have Thursday. Every 3 days, you're going to have another Kriyas HaTorah. And that is the way that the Jew never goes 3 days without a little bit of a Maimed Har Sinai. I don't have to tell you this. You all know this, that Kriyas HaTorah in Yeshua imitates what we had in Har Sinai. The Bima becomes Har Sinai, and you have 3 people over there. One is Moshe Rabbeinu, one is Klal Yisrael, one is the Sirsel between them. One represents a Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the guy that calls you up because he thinks he's like God. Bottom line is that you always have a connection to Har Sinai. By the way, these 2 shitas, there's a lot of nafkaminas between them. I'm just looking at the clock over here because I want to get to the Agadata. But one would be Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum. So Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum clearly belongs to the Shita that says every 2 days. The Gemara in Baba Kama, the pasuk of 3 days. And it does not belong to a Yom Tov, and it does not belong to the Dalet Parshiyos. There's no Indian to do Shnai Mikra ve'Echad Targum according to this approach for your Yom Tov laning and for your Dalet Parshiyos laning. Okay, I just wanted to now. It makes so much more sense when I come along and I bring down the shlah that says, based on this, you should know that Kriyas HaTorah is a din in the tzibur, but the Dalet Parshas was never that way. The Dalet Parshas was never ever that way. It was always a din in the Yachid. So it comes out now, basically, that you have regular Kriyas HaTorah that has, as we saw, these 2 Makiris. Then we have the Daled Parshiyos. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. As Levush says, each one of them has its own special takana, and that would be similar to, I guess, the laning on Tanios. It just belongs to that time of the year. And then you have this third idea that now I want to develop that says that the 4 weeks are connected to each other. Now watch this. Rabbi say, watch this. What does the Rambam say? So I already mentioned to you earlier on that my trusted Mishnah Bura over here, you can't see this because for some reason, I don't know how it's done, but my computer decided to make everything fuzzy from behind. I don't know how this works, but it just recently started doing this. I have to get one of my teenagers to fix it, or maybe it's just cooler this way. But the bottom line is that the Rambam does not bring Hilches Dalet Parshiyos like the Shulchan Aruch and the Torah brings it down, together with Hilches Megillah. It's brought down where? In Hilches Kriyas HaTorah. And the Achronim say, you see, the Rambam is in which camp? The Rambam is in the camp that we've called the Levush camp. The Rambam says each one of the 4 parshas is 4 separate concepts, and each one of them happens to be round about this time of the year, because it works out. Shekalim is before Nisan. Parah, they already sounds like it's all connected to Nisan over here, with the exception of Zachor, which is a din in Purim. 4 disparate, disconnected Shabbosim that happen to fall in this time of the year. That's what the Rambam holds as well. That is what the Achronim say is the seeming pashtus of the Rambam. But comes along my Rebbe, Rav Moshe Shapira, and points out that the Rambam has an extra halacha that technically speaking was not necessary. Before I tell you this Rambam, let's make a l'chaim. Here we go. The Rambam says, now I just want to point out that this Rambam is quoting word for word Yerushalmi. So this is the words of Reb Levi in Yerushalmi. The Rif brings this down, and it's not found in the Gemara. What the Yerushalmi brings is a summary of the 4 weeks. Listen to this summary. Nimtzeis. Summary. Shepamute hafsaka bin Shabbos Rishona Vishnia. Sometimes there's a gap week, a hafsaka week, like we had this year, between Shekalim and Zachor. Ay bin Shnia Vishlishi. Sometimes there's a gap week between Zachor and Parah. So that is, I think, when Purim falls on a Shabbos. So you have Zachor is put back a week, and Parah is a week later. Pamim tiyeh shtei hafsakos, bein Rishona v'shnia, bein Shnia v'shlishis. Aval bein shlishis l'revi'is ein mafsikim. You never, ever, ever make a gap between the third and the fourth Shabbos. So at first glance, it sounds very, very much like a technical fact. Between Parah and Hachodesh, you never ever make a gap. Rabbi Sai, put your safety belts on because you're about to fly. You're about to do something incredible. This is, by the way, classic Rav Moshe. I remember hearing this in the early years. I've even shared it with you at some point when we were learning Maseches Brachos together, this idea. But it's a very, very beautiful and powerful message, an idea, as we're going to see in a moment, super, super, super relevant to what we're going through at the moment now. Thank you, Hashem, for the quiet outside. Keep it that way. Last night at 4 a.m, it was not normal that the sirens went off. No one wants to see their neighbors in the pajamas. It's part of the worst part of the war for the average person over here. And so far, this night has been quiet. So let's keep it away for another 10, 15, 20 minutes, Bez Hashem. Well, let's keep it that way. Listen to this. Rav Moshe points out that it seems to be, when it says, Ben Shlishi L'Revi Ein Mafsikin, it's a din that way. It is forbidden to make a gap. These 2 weeks, Parah, which is what we're going to read tomorrow, for you guys, Shabbos, right? So we're going to, Parah and Chodesh, which is the week after, must be without a gap. Why? What's the big deal over here? Says Rav Moshe, let me show you 2 other examples of exactly the same idea. The first one is a Mishnah in Psachim Kuf Yud Zayin on his base. You all know this Mishnah. Ben Shlishi L'Revi Lo Yishda. There's 4 cups of wine. 4 cups of wine, just like there's 4 parshiyos. And between the first and the second cup, you want to drink wine, you're a wine drinker, you're French, or you lived in ancient times, you can drink extra cups of wine. Second and third, you can. After the 4th one, you can. Between the 3rd and the 4th one, Lo Yishta. So it's interesting. You have an identical concept, you have a 4-step process, and between the 3rd and the 4th, you're not allowed to add anything. It has to be, so to speak, together. I do want to point out at this moment now that la halacha, we are machmir. The Mishnah Berurah brings down. I don't have time to go through it because it's not so interesting. But it's, you see, have a look in Tofayin Gimel. You'll see over there in Tofayin Gimel, Im Yirtzeh Lishtais Kama Kaisis Harshis Biyadai, Vilkomakim Royal Isaiah, Shalai Lishtais Yain Ben Mishmishan Lashani, Im Leila Serach Gadol, Kadesh La Yishtake, V'yimne Melasas HaSeda, V'Kriyas HaGada. Rishmer brings Rak Ben Gimel Ladalid to Samach Lachila, or B'Teich Achila, the Az Eina Meshake. Rishmer brings down La Halacha that you don't drink, you should not drink during Magid. Why? Because you become woozy, okay? And that's not a good thing. Not everyone can hold their wine, and therefore it's not a good thing to do so, that you may not do the mitzvahs properly. 4 cups is enough. But during a meal, so you're having it with the meat, you're not having an empty stomach, so then Mishnah Berurah says, not a big deal. I always try to be makbid, to make like a little l'chaim, to mekayim the mitzvah of Sudas Yom Tov as well, separate to the daled cases during the meal. That's a hitter that you can do. Then he brings down that between the he brings down the halacha that between between benching and halal, totally and completely forbidden to add anything. Not only that, you ruin the whole thing. It looks like you're meisif ala cases. He brings down, and then after the meal is over, for separate reasons, you don't want to get drunk and have more cups of wine. It looks like you're adding to the cups, and you want to keep the taste of matzahs inside of you. Fine. Technical stuff, I just threw it in. I didn't want to do it because I'm looking at the clock. I couldn't hold myself back. One more example. Gemara in Brachas, Daf Daled Amud Beis. Amar Rabbi Yechanan, Ezu ben Olam Haba. Who's a ben Olam Haba? Zahaseimech Geula Litfila. Now, every single one of you at some point has seen a Hasidic or a Sephardi Siddur that tells us that davening has 4 rungs to it. Morning brachos, Psikah Zimra, Shema and its brachos, and the Shmona Esrei. Those are the 4 rungs of davening. Kneged, the 4 letters of Hashem's name. Kneged, and we're all grown-ups over here, the Dalet Olamis. So you have over here morning brachos, which is very physical, earthly. We thank Hashem for our eyes, and we thank Hashem for being able to sit up, and we thank Hashem for our shoes and for our clothing. It's all connected, the bottom hay of Hashem's name. Olam Ha'asiyah. And then Psikah Zimra is the world of the angels. We go into the angelic world, Olam HaYitzira, connected the Vav of Hashem's name, and then we get to Shema and his brachos. We're up there with the angels, and we say Kodesh, 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 and then we say our Shema, which is our Shevach from above. That's the Olam Habriya, that's the high hay in Hashem's name. Step 1, bottom hay, Vav, higher hay. Hay, Vav, hay. It's the journey. Now what? You're about to enter the Yud. It's Olam Hatzilus. It's Hashem's private world. I teach it to my students. I don't tell them about the Daled Olamas. I say, when you take 3 steps, the first step is from the physical world to the angel's world, from the angel's world to the world of the throne, and then private audience with Hashem. Moment of intimacy with Hashem. That's the Shemona Esrei. Between 3 and 4, lo yafsik. We got it again. Everything's falling into place. So how many times have we had this now? We now have, number 1, we have the 4 weeks between Parah and Chodesh. Number 2, you've got first cup of wine, Kiddush, second cup of wine, Magid, third cup of wine, the meal. Between the meal and Halal, lo yafsik. And then finally, we have between Seimech Geula Litfila, you have this incredible halacha that you go 3 steps of davening between the 3rd and the 4th. You cannot make a hefsek not for anything. Not to answer Amen, not to answer Kedusha, not to do Ashiyatza. No. Baruch Shem Gal Yisrael, Hashem Sefas Tivta. By the way, you're going to see in a moment, this corresponds to V'hitzetzi v'yitzalti v'ga'alti, boom, v'lakachti. What's going on over here? So, if you have a look at the Gemara and Brachos, Daf Daled Amud Beis, Beini Yoina brings 2 different reasons to be Seimech Geula L'Tefillah. We're just going to look at the first one. The first one is the one that interests me and interests you. What does he say over here? He says a person goes through a 3-step journey in life. That 3-step journey is called Geula. All of Geula, says Rabbeinu Yonah, has 3 steps. You want redemption? It's got 3 steps. And the moment that a person goes through Geula, what happens next? Seimech Geula L'Tefillah, says Rabbeinu Yonah, you have to take the Geula experience and instantly anchor it into a relationship with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Become one with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Let's read his words. Moshe Eved, Shekinah is a rabbi. He went through this Geula process, a slave, and his beloved master saves him. So he has a curse hatayv. Chayv lasses mitzvahs rabbi kimake otzeva, v'hagula shagala say abayra, v'shu avdav avda says he immediately wants to go ahead and say, what can I do for you? I want a connection with you. I want to be able to close. He doesn't just say, thank you for freeing me, I'm doing my own thing. No, he wants to get close to his master. That is normative behavior. If somebody saves you, you want to kesher with him. Seimech Geula L'Tefillah. So Kodesh Baruch Hu, Kiviyachol, brings us a Geula because he wants us to reach out with him and make that kesher. That kesher is the goal. That kesher is the connection. Now, let's first see how it fits in with everything else. First of all, V'yitzesi v'yitzalti v'ga'alti, immediately v'lakachti. Lakachti means you're mine. V'ga'alti v'lakachti. Let's talk about Seder night, right? Seder night, you've got the whole journey climaxes with the mitzvah of matzah, which is the meal. You go through Magid, and then you go through, you start off with Kiddush, then you go through Magid, and then you go through the meal, and the meal is basically the Geula itself. It's the Geula meal. At the end, what do you do to immediately into Halal? You immediately go from that 3rd cup and you start Halal. meaning you finish off. Halal means it's the equivalent for your Seder night table to a Shemona Esrei. Shacharis, you have morning brachas, you have Psukkot Zimra, then you have Shema and its brachas. How does Shema end? Ezras, what is Ezras all about? The Geula. Ram v'nisa, Gadol v'neira, Mash b'gem, Moitzi asirim, Afayna v'oiz whatever the Spartans say differently. V'ayna la'amai, v'eishav amalav. You were there for us. Because Baruch, I want to get close to you. V'ayna la'amai v'eishav, I want to get close to you. You take your 3 steps, you're one with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the world of Yichud. By the way, why the Mukubalim stand still, the Shemona Esrei, because you're one with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Till there, you're shuckling because you're running towards Hashem. But now, still, you're one. It's the moment of the Yichud itself.
Oh, no.
Now, we go back to the Dalit 4 weeks, and you see how beautiful that the Rambam is Marames by bringing the Yerushalmi, the Shlishi, the Revi, Ein Mafseyakim. So, do we have time for this? The first thing I need to point out to you is that there's 2 types of Geula. So there's the Geula of Purim and the Geula of Pesach. The Chag HaGeula is always going to be Pesach. Pesach is the standard Geula. There's nothing you can talk about it. Everything we do is Zeichel L'Tzias Mitzrayim. Not Zeichel L'Tzias Purim, nothing. Purim was a disaster at the end. We're still Avodim of Achashverosh. Today we're super Avodim to Achashverosh. If you hold the Achashverosh as Paras, which is connected to Yismael, we're not going to go there now. The bottom line is the Geula is Hein Ga'alti Esrim Karashis. The final Geula, where we want to get to, is once again the way everything began. It's just that there we went to Har Sinai and we did the Chet Egel. This time we're going to have the final Geula. Mashiach's going to make sure no Chet Egel. It's going to bring us to the Yichud with the Kodesh Baruch Hu, the Kodesh Baruch Hu, and the Shekhinah forever and ever and ever. But how do we get there? Because there's another Geula, which is called the Geula of Galus. It's the Geula of Purim. Nebuch is the end of the Jewish calendar. It's not Nisan, which is the beginning. It's the letter Hey in the higher world. That's the letter Kuf. Nebuch at the very end. You got a Galus to Geula. What type of Geula was it? Enmeshed in the fabric of nature. We didn't even see Nisan Gloim. As far as the word Nisan Gloim, but we didn't see it. We just saw everything went through nature. Everything was happenstance. But we found that we were saved from death and given life. And this is something incredible to point out. Everyone over here should remember this. And that is that unlike the Shibud in Mitzrayim was a spiritual Shibud, Purim, Haman wanted us dead. And we are exactly there again today. Everyone wants us dead. Everyone wants us dead, which means that the reason why I'm giving the shir at this moment, sitting in Yerushalayim, is a miracle of miracle. What would happen if there would have been chas v'shalom drone technology, but no technology to take down a drone? Have you ever thought about what it means to take down a drone? A drone is the size of this room. These drones, they can drop a bomb that can destroy this, I don't want to say, can destroy a building. The missiles, they say, can take down this whole block. Elamai, because Baruch Hu gave them this technology, so it doesn't happen. If they didn't have this technology, so if they could just throw missiles and we just couldn't defend ourselves. By now, I don't want to say anything. By now, it would have been literally of Holocaust proportions. Literally of Holocaust proportions. It would have been, whole cities could have been obliterated by now. What would happen if they had the atom bomb? Because Baruch Hu sent this Meshuggah to Trump. There's a guy. Back in the Purim story, he sent us Koresh. Koresh was no different. Koresh was a good guy. He loved his Yidden. He said, go ahead. Because Baruch Hu gives all kinds of people that have kinds of schusim. We don't get it. He sends us these people. Baruch Hashem, he gives schusim to the IDF. He gives chusim. I don't understand the Cheshbon Mashiach is going to explain everything to us, but this is what he wants. He wants that the kibbutznikim, they won't let, they don't let from people as pilots. It's complicated what goes on over here. But the top elite people are certain type of people. Shem wants them to have the chusim for reasons that we'll understand why. They had the chus to be able to save us, and we're so grateful to them. But that's the way it is. We're in this matzah. Those of you that heard my 10-minute clip, stop over-calculating things. But we are now in a world where 127 nations want us dead. The Geula is from Misa to Chaim. That's what we went through. But the Chaim that comes out of the Misa is literally a Tchias HaMesim. This is in Kabbalah. There's a lot that's spoken about that the true Tchias HaMesim happens from the Spitz darkness comes Tchias HaMesim. For those of you that learn Kabbalah, so you'll know that this is all connected to Chava being created from when Adam Rishon is deep asleep, and that's the way the world looks like now. The whole world is asleep. The whole world is in this dimion world of AI and everything. The whole world is not functioning at all. There's nothing going on anymore, and Akash Baruch Hu is busy preparing the final Geula b'Meher v'Yameinu. So this is the way we had it then when the Persian Empire appeared the first time, and now the Persian Empire is appearing today the second time. Just the Persian Empire is a little bit different. It comes out to be Paras is now, as the Maral says through Yismael, and the world that we see today. And the Akash Baruch Hu, like Rav Moshe said, Iran, it's all Iran and their proxies. And now the useful idiots in every college campus that adores them, and across Europe in every single city, and they've already captured Iran, it's already captured Paris and London and New York. Okay, these people are all gone. And the Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us Yeshuas in the most incredible way. I don't have time to go through this with you. I'm begging you, over Shabbos, open up any Hasidic Sefer. Reb Tzadok Cohen is a great place to start. He has different shitas to show the three-step process of Geula. Has to be Shekalim, has to be Zachor, and has to be Parah. That's the three steps. The simplest way of looking at it is Shekalim is your money, right? B'chol ma'idecha. Your B'chol levavcha is the Zachor, where they wanted our bodies. Levavcha. B'chol nafshcha means your neshama is the ruchnius that corresponds to the tahara of the Parah. I'm going to say very briefly, it's probably on Lahavin, it's probably also on Kol Lashon somewhere. Rav Moshe Shapira has this beautiful var that these three Shabbosim correspond to the Avos. And the goal is to get back to the Avos. Very, very simple. I want to also add the three Avos is the first three brachos of the Shemona Esrei. Avram Avinu is the Shekalim. Avram Avinu brings Kadosh Baruch Hu's chesed of Shefa to the four corners of the world. So he's the Bechina of Chesed. That's Magen Avram. It's the first bracha that Kadosh Baruch Hu unleashes Avram Avinu with his shkalim, so to speak, to be payal in the whole world. Then you have Yitzchak Avinu that's connected to Parshas Zachor. Melech Meimis Umachayim Atzmiach Yeshua. Yitzchak is Midas Adin. Midas Adin is not Sovel Amalek. Amalek is all about prekus oil, creating sfekus, nothing has to be. And Yitzchak is always about one thing and one thing only concerns me, doing the Ratzon of the Eibishter. So that is the Mechias Amalek. Then you got Yaakov. So here it's a little bit interesting. No one knows what Paradum is all about. Not even Moshe Rabbeinu. Not even Shlomo Melech. But we do know that Yaakov Avinu was the nearest that we get to a Paraduma. What do we mean? So Moshe points out, everyone knows that Yaakov Avinu was buried in Parshas Vayechi. It's a pasuk mefurish. Everyone also knows that Chazal say that Yaakov ain't a mace. How could that be? It's like a Paraduma. That could be, he didn't die. He did die. What's going on? We pass in Halacha, the Yaakov ain't a mace. There are people in Hebron that are Kohanim that go and daven by Yaakov Avinu. They all ain't a mace. There's nothing there that is dead. Tuma is Misa. Tuma from the word Tam. Tam means everything's closed, everything's locked in. But Yaakov Avinu, that's the third bracha. V'ata Kodesh, v'shimcha Kodesh, Kodeshim b'chol yaim. So the Sfarim bring down that the Kodeshim, B'yonis and Eibishitz, the Kodeshim is Yaakov Avinu. He was outside of the world of death. He was already in the higher plane. He was Kodesh. And this is where we reach the final Geula. We go through the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Shekalim, Zachor, and then Parah. Now we're ready to go back to Pesach. But it's a different Pesach. It's not the Pesach at the beginning of the year, which happened Mitzias Mitzrayim. It's the Pesach of La'asad Lavoi. It's the Pesach of Hein Ga'alti Eschem Achris Karashis. Right? It's going to happen again. The Ga'alti Eschem, the final Geula. We now can get back to that, to where everything began at the very, very beginning. So it comes out that the Four Parshiyos, like we mentioned before, from from the Shla, is very much a din in Adar. It belongs to Adar. And that's why there's even an opinion that says it could be Adar Rishon. It's an Adar thing. It's the end of the year. It's Golistic. It's the letter Kuf. It's all these things that are lowly. And through that, we come out and we unleash this incredible Hisayrus. So I want to finish off. I'm honestly talking to myself. I want to thank the Abishter that my phone over here did not go brim brim. The way it works over here is that everyone has a phone, and even the kosher phones have this. They give you an alert. The alert tells you that within 5 minutes the sirens are going to go off, so you can make your preparations for the sirens, and then you go into the sealed room, which is here. It's the floor below, and then you get on your phone when you're allowed to leave. This is happening since the beginning of the war, 3 or 4, sometimes Purim was 5 times. It happens throughout the thing. This is what we're going through at the moment now. And Baruch Hashem, I just gave a share over here without any interruptions. I just want to tell you that my little 10-minute clip reminded me of what happened in the Purim home of Rav Moshe Shapira. And with this, I want to end and give a message to you to share with everyone. Somebody came into Rav Moshe Shapira drunk. It was one of, the whole commotion. And this is, by the way, it's the last story in my book. And those of you that know, this is the very end of my book, is this story, Looking into the Sun. Yeah. So how do I end off? It was this Rav Moshe theater, I called it. Moshe was very funny in Purim. Guy comes in drunk. I think it may have been Reb Zachariah Greenwald, if I remember rightly. My boss is my boss at the moment, Mar. He comes in completely and he goes and he sort of almost sits on Rav Moshe's lap and cries and cries and cries. Why don't we have the Geula, Rebbe? Why don't we have the Geula? And Rav Moshe Shapira says, it's your fault. To me, it's my fault. Yeah, it's your fault. Me, it's my fault. Because you don't want him enough. You don't want him enough. And he starts crying, I want him. He says, no, you don't want him enough. And like, obviously, the Rebbe and the Talmud were comfortable with each other. They could do this. But everyone got the message. Stop trying to figure out how it's going to work out. My problem, because I'm Siddiq and I'm a yeshiva guy and I'm British, I got all these strikes against me. I got to figure out what exactly is Trump, what exactly is the secular Israel, what exactly, how does it work? How does Mamdani fit in? No, stop it. Menachem Nissel, stop it. Stop making all the cheshbainis. I have to ask one question. What can I do personally to bring the Malach Mashiach? This is what Rav Don Segal said from the Chafetz Chaim is the correct attitude. It's mamish in the Chaimis Adam for the Chafetz Chaim. Don't calculate things. I have friends that are Gematria Tafshin Peivav. He's gone already, but Rabbi Ravinsky sent me the Bnei Yisascha that talked about being Geula. The Geula is the time for the Melech Mashiach. Halavai, halavai, halavai. Stop figuring out the Gematrias, the Cheshbainis of how HaKadosh Baruch is going to do it, and ask yourself the only question that really matters is what can I do to up my game? And the answer is always there's something to do. There's none of us on that level where we can't improve on our hasmara in Torah. We can't improve on the avodah of tefillah, and we can't improve in our benadon lechaver and our ahavas Yisrael. Those are the big three: Torah, avodah, gemilas chasadim. Each one of us on our little shoulders should say, if I can fix those three things in my life, I'm good to go. That's it. I could be the one that Mashiach's going to take a stop and say, 1 second, I need to go all the way to the 5 towns, go to Reb David Shulman, I have to go to Savannah, I have to go to Phoenix, I have to go to Houston, I have to go to Miami. Oh my gosh, Blia and Hara, okay? But all the way where you come from Ottawa and from Atlanta, and I'm going to make all these detours to bring the Melech HaShiach. We should all be zeicha that Be'ez Hashem Yisbarach, that this para should be the climax of the 3-step process of bringing the Geula, and then we'll have Hachodesh Zelechem Rosh Chodashim. We can bring in Nisan, Be'evetz Hashem Yisbarach, and we can bring the Heilige Korban Pesach in the Beis Hamikdash. Looking forward to seeing you all there. Kol Tov and Mitzvah to continue next week.
Interesting.
Goach.
Thank you.